manufacturing has gotten a lot better at sharing their wages. And when I'm driving along the road and I'm seeing signs, now hiring, starting out at, whatever that dollar number is, 28, then, I can make that assumption, right, that it's probably competitive across the board.
Wow. That's actually pretty good. And you think about how many open jobs there are and how well they're paying. Why aren't we shouting that from the rooftops and letting folks know? And that we're automating the plants to free us from repetitive work. Yes, we'll lose some jobs, right? But at the end of the day, if we can do the things that, don't, just make us sad, and we're, increasingly finding things that, the things we can do in manufacturing are things that like we can increasingly feel safer at and enjoy more. I think these trends are going to be really good. Welcome to the Industrial Strength Marketing Show. Here we challenge leaders across the supply chain to make the relationships, their people, marketing, and technology the strength of their business. My name is James Soto, and I'm the industrial marketer best known for founding Industrial Family, the family of brands trusted by leading organizations around the world. I am sitting down with industrial innovators to talk about their careers, their insights, marketing, technology, recruiting that can make an impact on your business. Thanks so much, Ann Wyatt Recruiting, for being here in Nashville, Music City, USA. Let's go. Oh, you came to visit. So here we are in real life having fun.
This is crazy.
What do you think about Industrial HQ?
Man, this is dope. It really is. Like this whole layout of the building, the way, as a recruiter and as a human person, I love the layout of the facility where it's all open in here, still has that fun, fresh environment. And then even upstairs in that loft space, you get such a great open view of everybody, and everybody's just hanging out, smiling.
Yes.
To see.
Oh my goodness. Great HR reviews. That's great. And you got the tour. You already went up to the top. So that's great. So today we're going to focus on recruitment and a huge role that industrial marketers and manufacturers have around the world is recruiting the current, keeping the current, retaining the current, and attracting the next generation of manufacturers to industry. So we're going to talk about what's the role of a business in this role? How do you work with great partners like Ann Wyatt Recruiting? And how do you ultimately address the real issues that it takes to attract and get someone to join your business? So to get us started, Ann, can you give us a little background about you and your origin story that led you up to becoming a manufacturing recruiter?
Yeah, absolutely. Nashville is very close to my heart because I'm in Alabama now, but I used to be in Bowling Green, Kentucky, right up the road. And so I still have a lot of clients that are up in Bowling Green and in Franklin, Kentucky, even Logan County. So that's awesome. I love this. This feels like home.
We're total neighbors.
Yes,
that's awesome.
We are.
So how did that journey take you to like recruiting and manufacturing recruiting, and because you just like wave the flag?
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't start out in manufacturing. And I don't think a lot of us did. And I think that's what's so awesome about this industry. But basically, when I graduated from Western Kentucky University, I graduated in 2010. And I've told this story many times, but I ended up working for the Career Center through temporary service at the front desk first, and then being promoted while I was there several times, up into a workforce development specialist 2, which is super fancy for kind of that, not quite management, but a little bit more than entry level with the state. Did a lot of recruiting there, actually. Worked with a lot of greenfield plants while I was there, and started getting into labor market information profiles that were in turn used by economic development. And I'm proud to say I've even recruited a whole company to Franklin, Kentucky.
Nice. So how many jobs?
Yeah. How many jobs
did that
company have? So that's a great question. At the time as a greenfield, there were, I think, between 75 and 100 positions.
Wow.
It was predominantly foundry operators, which was interesting because there's not a whole lot of metals. At the time, there were not a whole lot of metals in Bowling Green. Wow. So that was one of the real issues that the company was interested in learning more about is, did we have a workforce that would sustain that specific operator type in that specific industry? If not, how could we train them and quickly? And I think everybody kind of worked out a great solution. The technical colleges were really involved in getting on board and helping that plant succeed. They're still up and running today. They've been through a couple of expansions, and I'm proud of them.
That's so good. And with that kind of numbers, that's like a lot of lives you've impacted from your work. So as like a recruiter and someone who's literally helped recruit a business, and you can create jobs and there's families. How many years ago was that? Like, it
was back in 2015 maybe, when that report, and then they had their groundbreaking, I think, in 2016. And then I think they've been in operation since 2017 or so.
Wow.
Seems like.
So that's real families growing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about, right?
Absolutely. That's why I got into this. I love recruiting. It's, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. And we all know, and everybody knows the stats. There's a huge skilled labor gap now and projected in manufacturing. There's a whole marketplace around how do we fill the skilled labor gap. In full disclosure, we have a workforce solutions team focused on, recruiting through marketing sciences, hundreds, if not thousands of jobs, even for just some certain clients that, say, in transport that have to put, let's say 2,000 drivers in seats. Manufacturing has so many jobs on the plant floor. So many things are happening. And when you look at manufacturing, we deal with the perception of manufacturing, what the other job options folks are competing against to, versus manufacturing. And as you look at that challenge of competing for a manufacturing worker, what are some of the challenges you see that manufacturing faces? And maybe what are some of the advantages you see that manufacturing has?
Yeah, I think manufacturing still faces a lot of the same challenges that, you see. Myself and some of our friends are always kind of trying to change that narrative, right, about being dull, dark, dangerous. Those are all. I will give Jake Hall full credit for that because I think that's his term.
The manufacturing millennial, Jake Hall.
Yes. But there's a lot of truth in that. We're still facing that stigma, like, manufacturing is dirty, or maybe the hours aren't quite as flexible as other positions in other industries. So working on technology that's going to implement change to where we can be a little bit more agile as a workforce are going to be critical over the next few years.
And what are some of the advantages you see that manufacturing has over other careers? Let's say retail or you name the industry. What are you seeing where we're leaning in, saying, "Hey, this is better"?
Honestly, one of the biggest things when I left my state job at the Career Center and started my own recruiting company, I made that choice right then and there. I was like, I'm only focusing on manufacturing. And I only want to focus on recruiting, technical talent, engineering, that kind of space. And one of the biggest things for me that really won me over, besides the robots, I mean, I love the robots, right? But one of the biggest things for me that won me over was that I've had many conversations with employees, like maybe they were even just temporarily laid off from a position or whatever. But just sitting across from that desk in the Career Center and just having those in-depth conversations about what kind of job they were looking for and what they did and everything. And a lot of those individuals are like, this is what I've been doing for 15 years and I'm good at it. And, maybe they were just a frontline operator in a plant. And then having that conversation with them and then saying, okay, well, what's something that we can do as far as improve, your skill sets, but then having also access to their wage records, their wage information, and just looking at that and being like, you know what? I mean, that's That's awesome. Here I have just kind of a normal Joe sitting across the desk from me, and they're kind of telling me all this. They're super passionate about it too, by the way. And I'm looking at maybe their resume, maybe they don't have a college degree, and then I'm looking at their wage information, and I'm just like, this is the most sustainable industry that I've seen, and I had to work all industries. I mean, it was just no competition there. And for me, I mean, it was just a great solution for people. Not everybody wants to go to that traditional 4-year school and do all that. Some people want to get to work right away, and this is a great pathway for them, and they can make a great life for themselves and their families.
Yeah, and you mentioned sustainable. So, it's obviously you're running a factory. It's got to be up and running, or a plant, or a different type of something in the supply chain. I've seen data that says manufacturing pays, over $26 an hour for someone on average, that in terms of like the hourly rate, folks, and that, basically that $26 to $30 an hour is like that bridge to the middle class. I've also seen data, I think it was from the National Association of Manufacturers, that shows that manufacturers are averaging now $90,000 a year in manufacturing. So not only is it that sustainability,
that's before overtime.
Yeah. So the data now, but I mean, that's pretty good.
That's great.
So is that what you're seeing? Is that an advantage you're seeing outside of the sustainability? Like, do you feel comfortable sharing those types of numbers? Is that what you're seeing? Because I know you cover a lot of different areas and economies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the going rate right now for operator. I don't work predominantly with that workforce as much anymore, hands-on, but I mean, it's not, manufacturing has gotten a lot better at sharing their wages. And when I'm driving along the road and I'm seeing signs, now hiring, starting out at, whatever that dollar number is, 28, then, I can make that assumption, right, that it's probably competitive across the board.
Wow. That's actually pretty good. And you think about how many open jobs there are and how well they're paying. Why aren't we shouting that from the rooftops and letting folks know, and that we're automating the plants to free us from repetitive work? Yes, we'll lose some jobs, right? But at the end of the day, if we can do the things that, don't, just make us sad, and we're, increasingly finding things that, the things we can do in manufacturing are things that like we can increasingly feel safer at and enjoy more. I think trends are going to be really good. Jobs are only being created in manufacturing. So when you think about the recruiter's job, so now if you're a marketer, if you're someone out there in recruitment and you're trying to attract someone and you're trying to make the case for them joining your business, if you're someone trying to get the job done in your plant, you're an operator, or you're in, talent acquisition, or if you're in HR, what are some of the challenges you see, some of the issues you face when you look at kind of what, and how do you create some, connection or harmony with operations and HR? Like what, as a recruiter, what do you see happening there in terms of operations and HR?
Oh man, that's a great question. So what I've seen in my experience recruiting is that there seems to be still kind of this disconnect between operations and HR that I really wish and cannot, I mean, in all honesty, for the industry to move forward and really progress in the way that I think is critical for their long-term success, it cannot continue. But that's that siloing of those departments. And, I used to belong to the SHRM chapter there in Franklin, Kentucky. And hearing their stories and kind of listening to their side of the fence on some of this stuff, and being treated just like the personnel department, And, HR is a brutal position anyway, I think, because it's all people, which is what you sign up for. But at the end of the day, you, like everyone else, want to be a valued member of that company. And I really think that operations in some regards have to turn the reins over, and trust their HR department to make decisions about their people, because that is your pulse on your workforce. That is your people, right?
Yeah, that puts you in a pretty, interesting situation, because you could be recruited by operations or HR, depending on the business,
Sure.
right?
Oh, yeah. I love working with both. So, and there are pros to both.
And you're in the middle of all that siloing. Is there a corporate culture? Do they have a culture of recognition?
Yeah.
Really important in manufacturing, long tenures, things like that. So I can imagine a lot of personalities and a lot of real issues and like the real product of a company you're looking at to work for. So when you're navigating all those personalities and all those people, like, what kind of superpowers do you tap into to kind of break through and kind of help people understand what they need to do?
I love that. I love everything. So I know when we met in Michigan a couple of months ago, and this is pretty usual. I mean, if you catch me at a show, I'm not the most extroverted person. And I keep trying to say that. Look, I'm very introverted in real life. But I think that one of my superpowers, if not my own personal superpower, is that I listen with intent and purpose. And I do that that's intentional. I like to hear more about you. I want to know your story, right? That's really kind of why I got into recruiting. That's why I love podcasting so much. It's a big part of the interviewing process, right? Mm-hmm. And I love listening to people share their experiences and their stories. And for me, my superpower of being that good listener and being that support system for my client, in turn, I can go back and also be that same support system for my candidate. So when I'm taking job orders that I know that I want to work on and I'm doing my company screening, it's imperative that during that process, I'm listening to their whys and I'm listening to what motivates them to work for that company every day and what they love about it and what they need in an employee and what they can offer and what the long-term career progression looks like. That's all very important information if I'm going to go back to a candidate and, have that similar conversation with them. And it usually, from my point of view, it shouldn't really be as much about the job. I don't want to force a square peg into a round hole. What I'm here to do is have that same casual conversation with a candidate and make sure that the answers that they're giving me are genuine and that they trust me and they trust me to work with the company to know if that's going to be a natural good fit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's got to be win-win at the end of the day. And you said their whys, both of their whys. So,
yes.
If you think of you may have heard of Simon Sinek. He's, world famous for talking about the why. And ultimately in a business, our why is, our vision, our mission, our purpose is to better those who design, make, and move the world. And that's a metaphor for manufacturing, design engineering,
Absolutely.
Manufacturing, moving the world, getting it to market, making an impact, through the product, through the people. And it comes down to the why for a job and an employer-employee, because if I believe what you believe are whys and we're aligned, that sounds like a good match.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wouldn't you say?
And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes being made in recruiting right now. I think it's become less about, it's become so one-off, right? And it's become less about the longevity of the person's career than about, other things. Like, I guess in recruiting speak, we would say, making the placement, right? In sales, you would say closing the deal, but it's become the focus isn't there on the people like it should be.
Core values are talked about a lot in businesses, and, we, here recruit it based on, that's a key consideration. You can't work here if you don't meet our core values of, we work for life, we work for our families, we roll up our sleeves, we question the status quo, we tough love, and we deliver and delight. And we talk about them a lot. Every single time we recruit, we actually have a little scorecard, and I do a check, plus, minus. And you definitely can't have a minus, plus, minus, we have to have a pretty serious conversation about it. But every time we've convinced ourselves someone was a plus minus or moved them to a plus, like, it just didn't work out. It didn't
work, does it?
It was really us wanting it to be a fit. And, that becomes a real challenge. And so you've got to really, and honestly for ourselves, like any moment where as employers or employees, or me as a founder even, we get in and out of alignment with our core values, and to have them there as an anchor to know, like, wow, I could have rolled up my sleeves more on that.
There's so much value in keeping metrics during your hiring process. Yeah. And if you're not doing that, if you're not doing that, then you're not creating that solid infrastructure that has to be there for your mission.
Core values for me, that basically outlines how we behave.
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
starts to, if you don't roll up your sleeves, like, that's not going to work out, So that's, but, we all have our moments, and, that's kind of the structure that, the whys and the what do we all believe, and all of those things come around to. So, for us, we have a lot of folks here who are concerned with, how do we grow our business? How do we attract, develop, and retain world-class talent? People who are highly talented, very driven. Driven is critical nowadays, because it's highly competitive out there in any discipline. So when you think about connecting, world-class talent with, a manufacturing opportunity, we look at it through also the lens as marketers. And what is the thing that you wish all manufacturers would do, from how they promoted themselves, their jobs? What would you have any one of them do as they're looking to be that attractive business and promote that business? So be it and promote it, and what do you run into, and how do you deal with it? Because you probably see all kinds of different end products, whether it's the talent or the manufacturing opportunity.
Absolutely. That's another great question. And I know that that's something that, we talk about a lot in this community, is just simple things like your website. Some other simple things that I think are easy and cost effective at applying, creating video job descriptions.
Wow. Tell me more about that.
Yeah,
because I think you do that. So if you go and we'll give everyone in the show notes Ann's links to her website. But you lean in on video a lot.
Yeah. So back in 2016, maybe, when this really started, when the talent gap really started to be evident, I guess I kind of had this idea, and I was like, the fastest way to move critical information is through video. It's the fastest way to move critical information. But if it's too long, you lose somebody's attention span, right?
Yeah.
So I started experimenting with doing video job descriptions back then. And there are a few things that I think are absolutely critical. And I've seen a lot of companies actually spend quite a bit of money doing video job descriptions, but I don't even think it has to be that intense like that. The things to me that are critical when I'm creating the video job descriptions, obviously, just a few key things about the job description that are going to be really unique to the position. So if I'm recruiting a controls engineer, then I want to know what programming languages are we talking about? Are we talking about Allen Bradley, or are we talking about Siemens, S7? What are we talking about here? Because that's a pretty specific skill set that the company is going to want. Mm-hmm. So 2 or 3 of those. I definitely want to know the salary. If you are still out there not posting job descriptions without salary, I don't know why. I really don't.
Yep.
It's not helping your recruiting strategy, because people are going to see that and they're going to say, well, how much does this pay? And is it worth, what's your interview process like? Am I going to waste a lot of time, get to the offer stage, and then be offered, a salary that's less than I'm already making, or what have you? So I want to see that. And then I want you to use the graphics or like the video, the pictures, whatever you got. I want it to be specific to the machinery type that you're using.
So make it applicable to what they're looking at in the first place, and like what they'd be working on, and making
exactly
it like relevant to not just a generic overview of here's the company, and yeah, you're not going to be at the massage parlor part of it. You're going to be on the, this side of the plant.
Like, have you seen this HMI screen before? Yes. Then that's probably a good sign, right?
Yeah.
And you do that because we do that innately. And I mean, big brands, big corporations, they've already figured this out about us, right? Like, we're driving down the road, we see the golden arches. What does that mean? I mean, just instant.
Yep.
Right? You don't even have to think about it. The Apple. What is that?
Yeah. It's in my pocket.
Exactly. So you kind of want to have that similar effect without, being a major corporation. And it's easy for people to recognize and just know from the start of the process, hey, I can do this.
So what you're saying in essence is that they're going to care more about like, hey, what's this job going to be like? How can I get a taste? And what's it going to look like, feel like, sound like? Mm-hmm. And so you're saying make those videos more prescript to like, hey, here's the opportunity. This is kind of what your world looks like. Here's the really cool technology, or, or machines or technology you'll be operating or programming or, supervise, who knows what. And that, I think we can also attend as marketers, because I think we do think a lot in the workforce. They care about purpose-driven companies. Mm-hmm. They care about a great place to work that has a sense of contribution and philanthropy and volunteerism. And I think we get caught up a lot into those things, but folks want to kind of know what they're actually going to be doing.
Getting into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
And an extra layer of that, and something that I offer my clients, and why I really think, recruiting will continue to be a valuable service beyond AI or technology or whatever, is the human factor of that. So, for me, I think you really have to be, again, listening with intention and purpose when you're having those candidate screenings. And you have to be able to go above and beyond. And that's something I talk about with candidate experience a lot, right? Is going above and beyond just the basic, here's your job description. Let's do an interview, come on site. I mean, it's more about having the conversations of, hey, Joe, how many kids do you have? And are they going to need school? So let's look at your school zones. Are you going to plan on relocating this person? And then having that conversation again with the candidate and saying, listen, this is the real estate market. This is what a gallon of milk is going to cost you. And kind of going over and beyond that. So, because if it were me in that position as a single mom with a 6-year-old, and you're asking me to uproot my life and move for a position that is new to me, I want to know that he's going to be taken care of as much as I am.
So what you're saying is maybe one of your superpowers is dialing up the empathy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you're not empathizing what they're really thinking about, and those little things like a gallon of milk, like that's serious consideration as we're thinking about. Yeah, I'm thinking about what are the perks? What's the paid time off? What are, the usual suspects? But it sounds like you can go a level deeper and make that more relatable. It's not just the money. It's like, what are the consequences?
Absolutely.
It could be like, hey, you're moving to a highly rated, area for education. Could be, and there's pros and cons to anything. So that there's weighing those pluses and minuses from an empathetic standpoint should really be powerful.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I know, again, you have a different work product you have to deal with.
Yeah, sure. But since 2015, I've never had a fall off. I've never had to replace somebody. And I think it's because I do the extra work and because I choose to lead with that empathy. You know, you have to put yourself in that position if we want to support this narrative of manufacturing is a long-term career choice. If you choose to leave your job and come work for us, you know, this is a long-term fit, and it needs to be a long-term fit for everyone.
Yeah. My father was in manufacturing 42 years. I was born in the Bronx, shuttled to the factory in Stanford just as a baby, and, you know, worked in college on that plant floor and in warehousing and distribution. And my sister worked there too. She went to Penn State to become an industrial engineer. So I always say I was born industrial, raised digital, because came up, you know, programming, little basic programming, all that stuff. But, you know, I think there's that sense of community in manufacturing, you know, working the plant floor with people who've been there 25 years and playing cards during the breaks and seeing the ups and downs of people having to scale up and scale down in manufacturing, and that attachment of so many years. Manufacturing is a very special place. It's a very special community inside those plants all around the country. And I think it's really great to know that there's folks like yourself out there who are bringing that empathetic point of view, that are really working through the challenges of how do we, you know, connect the dots and create harmony between the operations side and the HR side. And, you know, just ultimately just bringing everyone together, you know, to just make a better country and make things that are, you know, changing people's lives. And so I know, because everyone always tells me, hey, James, on the show, you got to do this better. Like we just want to know, like, how do we get in touch with you, Ann? How do we, like, where do we go to learn more about your recruitment? And, like, unapologetically tell everybody about, like, who do you like to serve? Who's a great fit? What do you do for them? And how do they find you?
Sure, absolutely. My client base is predominantly small, medium enterprises, so SMEs. And I focus predominantly on metals, automotive, industrial automation. I've even worked with private engineering firms on their recruitment strategies. And a great place to find me is on my website if you want to check out all of the services that I offer through Ann Wyatt Recruiting. Also, if you're in the job market, I have a really cool candidate knowledge base with templates and, like, the whole 9 to get you started on your job search. And I mean, if you are not following me on LinkedIn, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I love that space to just be myself and hang out with other, you know, great, cool manufacturing folks like James here. So we would love you to connect with us on LinkedIn.
This is I haven't been called cool in
You're
like
cool.
a decade. So that's
happening.
So it's
happening.
It's
www.AnnWyattRecruiting.com.
And how do we find you on LinkedIn?
All of my social handles are at A Wyatt Recruits.
A Wyatt Recruits.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes.
So on that note, Ann, thank you so much for what you do to address the skilled labor gap in America. I love your empathetic approach to really helping people connect with great careers. So on that note, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It is a privilege. Like, I'm so honored and humbled. Yes.
It's great to have you. And we are friends, just so you know. We met at the MFG Champs events. It was a gathering of creators and influencers and people passionate about all different types of themes in manufacturing. And you are on a journey, like I am, to try to extend our reach and creativity and whatever elements of influence we may have to make people better. So you can catch Ann out there on social media, and she's on a content journey. We're on a content journey. And so on that note, I want to thank you so much for making time in your day to listen to the Industrial Strength Marketing Show. I hope you just heard even just one thing from Ann that inspires you to make recruiting, marketing, technology, and people even more of a strength of your business. So for more insights from industrial marketers, or if you'd like to reach out to us or Ann, visit Ann Wyatt, visit industrialstrengthmarketing.com. Let's have some fun on LinkedIn, and we will catch you next week.